Good evening. This is Yeon Kim, your mentor to discover Korea beyond the media. Democracy is the main character of the Republic of Korea. Then, what is the democracy? According to Britannica, democracy is a system of government in which laws, politics, leadership, and major undertakings of state or other polities directly or indirectly decided by the people. Did you watch the documentary and news I recommend? That material show you how Korean politics work in Korea. Korean politics is run by not only politicians but also its own people. Can you remember righteous armies and march force movement against Imperial Japan from previous lectures? As far as you can assume, the most Koreans are huge interested in whom they vote for, what politics they have, and how governments run. That is why there is so many demonstrations in Korea. Also, that is why Korean people keep debated about politician, politics, political party all the time. Today, we will have a look of Korean political events after liberations. Then, we will be able to know what rules Korea. Why is democracy so important in Korea? To find that reason, we also have to see Korean constitutional law. In the preamble of Korean constitutional law mentioned about democracy, it says, "We, the people of Korea, proud of a resplendent history and tradition dating from the time immemorable, upholding the cause of the Provisional Republic of the Korean government, born of the March 1st independent movement in 1919, and the democratic ideals of the April 19th uprising of 1960 against injustice, having assumed the mission of democratic reform." Therefore, the characteristics of Korean politics is based on democracy. Democracy was officially introduced to the public in 1896, first time in Korean history by Tongnip Sinmun, and it became the ideals of the Provisional Republic of Korean government during colonial period. After Korea independence from Imperial Japan, Korea seems to have democracy forever. However, Korea had experienced 2 coups, 3 rulers who had the dream of imperial presidency, and 3 forcible dissolutions of parliament, 9 constitutional amendment, and also it had to impeach its president in 2016. It seems Korean democracy is in turbulence. However, Korean peoples are still involved in the political activities, and we called it as grassroots democracy. We just watched the video of democratic movement on the 19th of April 1960s. After 35 years of Japanese colonial rules, Korean peoples are tired of authoritarianisms. social situation at the time was quite different from colonial period. There are improvement of education level, urbanizations. Also, the spread of mass media was so fast. Hence, people can get daily update news every day. Also, ruler is not a king anymore. This kind of situations makes people involved politics. In this social phenomenon, people found it a ruling party planned it, a fraudulent elections, and eventually it occurred on the 15th of March, 1960s. This fraudulent election triggered people's desire to protect their democracy, which they finally got it after colonial period. However, the government suppressed the protest with force. In a few days, a protester who had gone missing on the day of the elections while protesting was found dead by tear bomb, which was used to quell protest. The incidents sparked public outrage. However, police still attempt to hide it under anti-communism propaganda. On the 19th of April, 1960s, university students lead nationwide revolutions. Protesters was included many students from university, high school, and even from middle schools. In the beginning of demonstration, government answered it with suppressions by force. It killed 186 people and also harmed 6,026 people. However, finally, it made President Lee resign in April 26, 1960. After the April 19 uprisings, people believed they could finally get democratic countries ruled by people. However, their hope couldn't last long enough. Park Jung-hee, who was the second highest ranking officer in the army, led coup in 1961. The coup was successful, so he became a chairman of military junta, Supreme Council for National Reconstructions. And eventually, he was elected as a president in 1963. His presidential regime was from 1963 to 1979 until he got assassinated. His career as a president is still very controversial in Korean society. However, nobody can't deny that human rights was suppressed by the government during his regime. In 1972, he released October Restorations, as known as Yushin Constitution. Firstly, he changed presidential election method from direct election to indirect election to let him be a president for life. Secondly, he also prohibited any kind of political protest. He made press censorship. Also, he closed the college. There were night curfew, so you couldn't walk around during the night. However, even after Yushin Constitution was released, students, media, and pro-democratic politicians kept protesting. Eventually, all these laws are removed after his resign ended in 1979.
After Park Chung-hee resigns ended, people got hope to make democratic countries again. However, that second hope also couldn't last long enough. Chun Doo-hwan, who was general in the army, led another coup in 1979. Chun Doo-hwan led coup successfully. So after coup success, he built up all the steps to become a president to justify his coup. The soldiers who joined the coup seized control of the army and government by martial law. Also, he replaced Choi Kyu-ha as a president from 1980s to 1988. People began to express their opposition to the coup, resigned in the protest. One of the well-known protests, named the May 18 Gwangju Demonstration Movement, was led by university students and also people who live in Gwangju City. The demonstration was getting larger in Gwangju. However, Mr. John's government enlarged martial law and used anti-communism propaganda to suppress these demonstrations. They also sent armed police and military to quell the protest. Unfortunately, it made so many people killed and injured. 145 people are killed by military, and among them 41 victims are only teenagers who were from 14 to 19 years old. 7 years after John started his resign, brutalities of the John's government was getting serious. The tortures of the protesters or other politicians. Also, they use anti-communist propaganda to strengthen their authorities. His strict authoritarianism was getting stronger. On the other hand, people start to demand a dialect election to check the dictator's long-term rule. People also want to have a truly democratic government and punishment his abuse of authorities to strengthen his power. These social situations lead nationwide demonstration. According to the Korean National Archive, more than 4 to 5 million of people participated. Even the people from the religion, for example, Catholic diocese in Korea, also actively participate in it to protect protesters from the armed police. These demonstrations was called June Democratic Struggles. This nationwide pro-democratic movement made a result. Presidential election method was able to back to direct elections, and President John was admit people's desire for democracies and promised to resign. After President John, as known as Dictator John, was resigned in 1987, Korean people can finally participate in the direct presidential elections for the next presidents. However, the first elected presidents with direct election systems was President John's colleague from the military. Fortunately, President Roh Tae-woo handed over power peacefully in the next presidential elections. From 1990s, Republic of Korea has shown a high turnout rate. Why turnout rate is so important? Because election turnouts is an indicator of the quality of democracy along with the degree of political participants. Korea also had declined turnout rates in 2000. However, fortunately, turnout rates in presidential elections increased again from 2012. Comparing to 2007, more than 14% people participate in the presidential elections. Last year, 2022, Korea had presidential elections. Its turnout rate is over 77%. Korea's democracy does not always maintain its peaceful condition since the 1990s. Time to time, it often faces various risks. For example, there was candlelight protest against President Park Geun-hye from 2016 to 2017. The massive abuse of power by her and her people during the reign led the outrage of the public. According to the Gallup research of Korea in December 6 to 8, 2016, 81% of population agree to impeach President Park. People organized 23 times of peaceful demonstrations named candlelight protest against the most criticized government from October 29, 2016 to April 29, 2017. All demonstrations was led by people from various groups such as students, teachers, public workers, or labor unions and media. Finally, the Constitutional Court of Korea unanimously upheld the impeachment on the 10th of March 2017. President Park had to immediately be removed from the office. In the end, she was also sentenced to 24 years in prison on the 6th of April 2018 after being found guilty of abuse of the power. She was guaranteed a special pardon in 2021 by President Moon Jae-in for health reasons. Nowadays, democracy in Korea is becoming delicate. It is not only against authoritarianisms, but also against discriminations in Korean society. Have you ever been to Korea, or at least in Seoul? If you visit Korea, you could find at least one protest during your stay. This protest was used to raise minors' voice. For example, woman's voice, disabled voice, and LGBT's voice. Likewise, in Korea, many peoples are making effort to build politically advanced society. Political figure and incidents in Korean society were still quite controversial issues. That's why it still causes serious political debates in Korean society. During this class, I tried to deliver accurate information based on academic field. If you have more questions about it, please leave the comments in our classroom. And if you are interested in this topic, I would like you to watch this additional material I write in this slide. Thank you for your attention and patience for boring topics. Okay, please don't forget to watch the material for next class. I will also post those links in our classroom. See you next week. Bye.